Well, hello and welcome to the channel. My name's Johnny, and you're watching Hillbilly Modeling. So this is going to be part three, part three of our TAMIYA 148 scale Vought F4U-1A Corsair. And this video, we're going to be doing a lot of painting. So I really like the color scheme of these Corsairs, and then most of them were, not all of them, but the most interesting ones, in my opinion, have these really nice color schemes here. So we're going to do our best to try to replicate that. And yeah, so we got a lot of preparation to do before we're able to actually shoot some paint. So we need to get started on that. So let's jump down to the bench and get started. Okay, so here we are. This is kind of how we left our Corsair in the last video. So there are some things that we need to do. These landing gears are going to be painted separately, so we need to go ahead and remove those. If I can get it out there. There it is. And the tail wheel too, so those will be painted differently. Also, the bomb and the rack, and we're just going to go ahead and pick up our flaps for now, keep everything organized. So looking at our instructions, I kind of debated on whether or not to put this antenna mast in or not before or after painting. So I kind of decided, well, it would probably look better if I just go ahead and install it. Now, the way it does have an angled base on it there, so you don't want to get that backwards. Now, this hole that I'm sticking this antenna mast into, it you have to cut that out, and it's just a little bit tight. Now I would rather it be tight than loose, so we're just going to trim it out just a little bit more and get that antenna base, or the base of the antenna mast, whoo boy, hard to say, to fit into that slot, and it goes in. And then we're just going to cement that into place. Now, you may choose to do this later, you know, and not install it before painting, because you might be afraid of knocking it off. And, you know, I think I would rather take the chance and make sure that it matches up good with our paint. Next up, we do need to take care of our gunner sight here. It does have a little seam on it there. We need to take and scrape off, and also file it down so that it fits into the instrument cluster. It fits right into the top of the instrument cluster. It's a little hard to see since it's a clear part, but we'll get that taken care of, and we do want to test fit this before we paint it, just to make sure that it's all going to fit together correctly. And it does. It goes right into the slot. Now, we also have a clear piece here that's kind of like a heads-up display, I guess. Yeah, it just kind of sits down there in a little slot as well. Now, the reason why we're doing this is we're going to be installing these later. So the whole idea is that when it comes time to paint the exterior of the aircraft, I intend to have the windscreen installed. And, of course, that would be kind of difficult to put the gun sight and that HUD in place if the windscreen's already there. So everything fits and lines up good, so that looks nice. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and mask off our cockpit area. If I can think of what I'm trying to do here, and a little bit of cotton in there to help catch any overspray, to keep it from going down inside of the cockpit. If you can kind of block the airflow, that keeps the air from dragging paint down inside there. We don't want to do that because we've already got that all painted up, as well as our wheel well areas. That's all painted up, so we're going to need to protect that. And we're going to do that with some TAMIYA mask tape here. And we have left the ends of the wings open so we can reach up inside there. So the best thing to do if you want a successful painting session at your paint booth is make sure that you're all organized for it. Now, I have gone and masked off the perimeter around all of our parts that are supposed to remain clear in our canopy. And I did that off camera because I'm using 1mm wide Tamiya tape for that, and it's kind of hard to see where you need to terminate the ends of it, and it would have been really hard on camera. So, but with that masked off, we're going to use Micro Mask, which is a liquid mask, and we are going just to fill in all of these large areas, and I'm hoping that this works. I don't have any reason to believe that it won't work, but this is what I intend to do here. This liquid mask is a water-soluble solution until it dries, and then it becomes kind of rubberized, it'll. Well, the intent is that it's supposed to peel right off, and that shouldn't be a problem after painting. Next thing, I do want to measure the depth on the inside of the cowling here, because we've painted that up, that interior fuselage green, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cover it with a strip of paper. So once I've got my measurement, I'll just go ahead and mark that out, and with our marks setting our actual depth, we're just going to cut a strip of piece of paper off here. Now, before we install that, our cowling needs to be painted on the aircraft because we have a multicolor color scheme that we're going to go with here. So I'm using that liquid mask as an adhesive to put the rear section where the engine mounts into place, and we got to have that in there so that we can also mount our cooling flaps here. And same thing, we're just going to use the liquid mask as an adhesive. Now you kind of have to hold this together until it dries. Don't be trying to put it on the aircraft until it has totally dried, because it will come apart really easy until it has done that. So next up, we're going to roll up that piece of paper that we cut, and we're just going to let it expand inside that cowling, and that should protect the green paint on the inside of the cowling there, so we don't have to worry about it when we go to spray the aircraft, and we don't have to worry about tape either. And I'm also going to take and stuff a piece of a cotton ball right up inside of it there, and that's going to keep the paper in place as well as protect that back firewall for the engine. So next up, we're going to use this Vallejo water-based acrylic paint here, and this is German dark panzer gray that we're going to be using. And we're just going to come in with our airbrush and paint the area of the very front of the fuselage here with that. And then we're going to go over top of the little dash panel area that's going to be underneath the windscreen there. That needs to be a dark color too. Usually they're black. I just opted for the panzer gray, which is basically almost black. So, next up, we're going to prime up our landing gear and just make sure that we get a good coat on there. And along with that, we'll be doing the tires. We need to paint those as well. Get those primed up, and after we get our tires primed up, we're also going to do, and you don't want to forget your the center hub sections that we're going to be installing inside the wheels, on the outside facing part of the wheels, and our bomb as well. And since I want the inside of the canopy framework there to have that dark gray color, just like the top of our dash panel area, we're going to go ahead and spray that, and that's going to be underneath the paint for the final blue color that we're going to be putting on later, but this is going to give us the contrast of having that black on the inside. Now, I looked at a lot of photographs, and a lot of the ones on the Corsair, especially on the windscreen and stuff, they weren't green on the inside. Most of them were black, so we're just going to go with that. Speaking of black, we're going to be using this Vallejo water-based black to paint up our bombs, or our gun sight, I should say. And I guess it also doubled as a bomb sight too if you're dive bombing. So Yep. Going to have to put a couple of coats on this because the clear plastic allows it to shine through if you don't put a thick coat on. So we're going to be using this gray panel liner to try to accentuate the little bitty details that are on our sight, because we just don't want it to look like a black blob they're sticking up on the center of the instrument cluster. So I'm just going to use a Q-tip and a little bit of enamel thinner because this is an enamel-based product. Once it dries, we can come in and just kind of clean that up, and it'll give us just a little bit more detail there, that a better chance and opportunity to see that inside the cockpit. So now that everything has dried around the cockpit area where we sprayed it, we do need to remove some of our masking here and get our cockpit ready to receive the gun sight. So we'll put the gun sight in, being very careful not to touch anything else but that little slot with our Tamiya Extra Thin, and then we'll just slide our gun sight into place there. You want to check and make sure that it's straight, because you don't want to find out later on that it's not straight after you've assembled everything and it's dry. So I'm just making sure that I've got enough extra thin there to hold it into place. And then we'll put our HUD into place there. One little slot, and we'll just push it down. Make sure that it's fully seated. And that's all there is to it. And just make sure everything's lined up, and it looks pretty good. So now we can go ahead and install the canopy. Now we've already put that liquid mask on and everything, so it's ready for painting. I do want to just slightly touch the edges of the bottom framework there of the windscreen. I think I called it canopy a minute ago, but anyway, the windscreen. And we're going to give this plenty of time to set up. It should hold it in place for us and not be an issue. Looks good. Okay. So back to our liquid mask. I'm going to use this to cement our cowling assembly onto the fuselage of the aircraft. Now, we're not going to worry about painting the inside of the cooling flaps and stuff. We'll have to come back and take care of that later. The important thing is that the cowling is installed, and it's done in such a way that we can remove it later, because we still have to take it back apart and install the engine and do some detail painting there for our intake pipes and the back side of the cowling flaps. So we're just going to sit this down and let that micro mask set up for us. And that gives us the opportunity to go back and remask the cockpit area because we don't want to get any spray, number one, down into the cockpit, and number two, definitely not on the back side of the windscreen, because that would be a problem. So we will just mask this up, just kind of sticking that masking tape in on the inside there and working our way around with it. Takes a little bit of practice and a little bit of patience, but this is really going to help bring the look of the aircraft together for us. And we don't want any gaps there where we can get paint to filter down inside the cockpit area. So we'll just make sure that that's all closed up. Now we're going to want to go ahead and spray our canopy area here. Well, not the canopy, the windscreen, the same color as we did our canopy, so that that framework is not going to be mismatched. And there we go. It looks good. Now we're ready to move on to priming everything else, and for that we're going to use this Vallejo water-based acrylic primer gray. And we're going to do everything. Now, I do thin this out a little bit for my airbrush, depending upon your airbrush and the size orifice and everything. Your mixture and your ratio for thinner to paint may vary. So that's my disclaimer for you. So as I was inspecting my parts before priming it, I did notice that that Tamiya putty that we used, that white, has shrunk on us on our flap. So I'm going to fill it with perfect plastic putty because it is water-based and it dries quickly. You can even use a hair dryer to hasten the drying, and then we're just going to sand that down nice and smooth so that we don't have any gaps there, and hopefully it won't be visible through the paint once we get everything primed up. Now with everything primed up in our light gray there, we're going to use this German Panzer gray here, mixed up for the airbrush of course, to spray on and do some pre-shading. So what we're going to be looking at is doing our panel lines. So yeah, this is not the best shot. Sorry, I'm kind of in the way with the airbrush. I need to find a better location for the camera. But what we're going to do is we're going to go through and very carefully, and you don't have to be super accurate, just get a little bit of pre-shading there on these panel lines. And there are different schools of thought on whether you should do this or not do it. That just leave it up to you. So once we get everything painted up, you could be the judge whether you like the pre-shading or not on your aircraft. I know I do it on armored vehicles, but we do have a multicolor color scheme. It's going to go on this aircraft, so some of this pre-shading may not come through, but we'll just have to see how that works out. So we're just catching all the big panel lines, and we don't want to forget, of course, to do the underside of the aircraft as well as our wings. We're going to make sure that we catch all of those too. If you're going to do pre-shading, don't leave out major components because there will be a big contrast difference in the final result between the parts that you did pre-shade and the ones that you didn't. Now here we are with all of our pre-shading done through the magic of video. So we're ready now to start painting different colors, and for that I'm going to take a look at our instructions here. We're going to go with and as you can see here, Tamiya has this call out for AS20 for the underside of our center fuselage there, and of course our those short stubby sections of the wing. And doing a little bit of research, and I don't know how well you can see it, but there are different shades of insignia white, because that AS20 is supposed to be insignia white. And there is a difference, as you can see, in what that insignia white is supposed to look like. Some say it's white with a little bit of buff added, and you know. So I don't have any of that insignia white, so I'm just going to make my own. But I'm going to keep mine more in the grayscale. So these are the two paints that we're going to be using to make up our quote-unquote insignia white. So this is hillbilly insignia white. So I'll use a little bit of the pale gray to tint our regular white and hopefully come out with something that's going to look all right. So we are going to mix this up, and I don't intend this video to be a paint mixing video, but as you can see here, it's a off-white with a real slight gray tint to it, and that's the color I'm going to go with. So when we go to spray this on, we are just going to kind of stay in the region where this paint is supposed to be. Now we're going to get a little bit of overspray, but that's not a great big concern at the moment. We're just trying to develop that color over top of that pre-shading. We just don't want to oversaturate the pre-shading because we do want that to kind of show through the paint, the final color there, once we're finished with it. Now, it's important for me to go ahead and note at this time that there are 4 flaps that goes into those short stubby wing sections, and we're going to need to paint those the same color as the underside of the aircraft here, so that they kind of match up. So don't forget to do the proper 4 flaps that are associated with this. And there we are with our Hillbilly insignia white. Next up, we do have a light blue-gray color, and that'll be on the bottom side of the wing sections where the wings fold out to the tips. And Tamiya's call out is AS19 for that. But we, yeah, let's see, we're going to go ahead and look it up here. AS19. And that's Tamiya's intermediate blue. So if we take a look on our box, we can see that intermediate blue there. Now, I have some craft paint that is almost an exact dead ringer for that. Of course, when it dries, it'll be a little bit different. But this is a water-based acrylic, and it is nautical blue. And it's a really, really light blue-gray, which I think is going to do the job for us. And that's great, because we don't have to mix anything. Now, of course, I've mixed it up for the airbrush, so it is thinned a little bit, and we're just going to start developing this color, which is our second color. And I am changing my angle of attack here because I want a visible separation, not a hard line, but just a visible separation between our Hillbilly insignia white and this nautical blue that we're putting on. And just watch very carefully your attack, which is the angle at which you spray this, so that you're not putting this blue and get a lot of overspray onto your insignia white. We'll probably have to come back in later and do a little bit of touch up, but we'll do that after we get all of our colors on. And of course, as I mentioned before, don't forget about our wing sections here. So the underside of these wings are going to be painted the same color, and we're just going to develop that color over top of our pre-shading. And don't forget about the flaps that are going to go onto these wing sections, because there are 2 flaps, one for each wing. So we don't want to forget about those. They need to have the same color intensity, so we need to paint all that at the same time. So we'll give it a good once over here. Yeah, I'm probably going to have to come back in and touch up a little bit of it, but as you can see here, we've got that nice shading there around the engine cowling, because the very bottom of the cowling is supposed to remain the insignia white. And yeah, it looks odd right now, but I think it's really the color that we need. So, and there's the flap for this particular wing, just making sure that the intensity of that paint is the same. If not, we'll go back in and shoot it again to make sure that it is. So we're going to go back to the box for our color reference. Now, as you can see here, that is a really, 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 really dark blue. So I'm going to kind of use the side of the box here that's going to kind of give me a clue on how dark this blue actually should be. It's supposed to be a navy blue, and Tamiya calls out the AS8 for that. And in case you don't know, AS is for the satin type paints. What I do have here, though, is I've got some black, and I've got some ink spot, which the ink spot is a satin water-based acrylic craft paint. So we're just kind of mixing this up, trying to get close to the color that we see on the side of the box there. I don't want it a real dark black, nearly black, dark navy blue. I want mine just a little bit lighter, maybe. So that's the color that I came up with, but it's a little bit blue, and I think that would look maybe a little bit out color scheme wise, I don't think that's really the color that we're looking for. So let's try something else. And that'll be Stormy Blue. So we're going to take some Stormy Blue here. And of course, it's way too light for us. So we're going to have to, yeah, see how light that is? That's not going to work against our nautical blue. So we're going to have to darken that up. So we're going to go ahead and mix this with a few drops of black in it. And we'll just add that black to it. And then we'll get it all mixed up and see what our shade kind of looks like. And with it all mixed up, that's the color I came up with. But I don't really like that one either because it's a little bit too far down into the grayscale range and not blue enough. And then the ink spot is, well, it's too blue. So I've decided I am just going to mix it another paint. 50-50 using both of these mixes, and we're just going to mix those half and half. So taking a look here, this is the ink spot, which was too blue, and then our Stormy Blue, which is too gray, and I mixed them half and half, and the one in the middle is the one that I'm going to go with. I think that it's a lighter color for navy blue. But remember now, when you really scale down the size of the model that you're building, if you use really, really dark colors, a lot of your detail kind of fades into the background. So this is the blue we're going to use. Now, before we start painting, there are some areas that we need to protect. Number one, our vertical stabilizer here. Right along that riveted seam is where the line of separation is between our hillbilly navy blue and our intermediate blue. So we're going to mask that off, and that is a straight line. Looking at the side of the box, that's just a real straight, easy to do masking. So we'll mask that up, and we do want to protect the bottom edge of the wing. I'm just taking the masking tape and putting it right up where that little airfoil rib is there, and then of course on the underside there where the flaps would be. Now the whole back side there is going to be our blue, but on the front of the aircraft here, these intakes and of course along the leading edge, it's kind of a feathered. It's not a hard line, it's kind of a feathered line. So I'm leaving the masking tape just kind of open right there. That way we can get a little bit of spray down in there without creating a hard edge, but hopefully we can get a fairly straight line. And we'll just have to do that to the opposite side as well. Now when it comes to our horizontal stabilizers, I have cut the mask at a 45 or so degree angle. That's a hillbilly 45. But the reason why is because when we get up right to the stabilizer, we don't want that tape getting in the way. That way we have a smooth transition on back towards the tail of the aircraft. And the same thing, leaving off to the very tail, we don't want that tape to interfere. So I've just tapered that away as well. So we just have to do the other stabilizer and we'll be in good shape. Now when it comes to the wings, along the leading edge, we're going to do the exact same thing. We don't want a hard line there, so I've left the tape extended, and however it's not rolled over the actual edge. That way we can get some feathering there, and then we just have to tape up the rest of it there to protect from overspray. Now, of course, we have to paint the top side of all of our flaps. So don't forget that you need to protect as much of the underside of the flaps as you can and leave the top exposed so that we can go ahead and paint those while we're doing the rest of the aircraft. So again, just like we did with our nautical blue or Tamiya's intermediate blue, we are just going to watch our angle of spray so that we're not getting a lot of overspray down onto those other colors. And now we just got to go over the aircraft and develop the intensity that we want out of our blue. It's going to take a few light coats to get there, but it's looking really good, and this paint's going down really nice, so we should be able to not have any real issues with that. Now, probably going to have to come back in and do some slight touch-ups here and there, which I kind of expect to do because I'm not very precision-oriented when it comes to these airbrushes. That's why I do all this masking. I know there are some of you guys out there that don't have to mask anything, so and that's fantastic. I just don't happen to be one of those people, so I spend a lot of time putting masking tape on. So with everything sprayed and dry, this is the color that we have. And I was a little bit not sure, but the more I look at it, the more I like it. It's not a deep, dark navy blue. So, yeah, I think it looks good. I'm really liking it. Now, there are some areas we're going to have to come back in and touch up a little bit, but we'll do that after we get our masking tape off. But the other thing that we need to pay attention to is to make sure that we paint the wings at the same time and that they all kind of match with the same intensity, allowing the panel pre-shading that we did to shine through at the same rate so that things aren't kind of mismatched there. So now we can go ahead and start pulling off some masking tape. We don't want to do our wheel wells yet until we are sure that we don't have to come back in and do some spraying. Otherwise, we'll be masking that back up. But we do want to check these leading edges here and see if they're acceptable. It looks pretty good. That's nice. Okay. And after pulling this tape off right here, you can see that there is some overspray there around those wheel wells. So I'll have to come back in and touch that up before we tear out all of that masking around those wheel wells. Don't want to have to tape that back up later. So I'll just go in and lightly touch all that back up and kind of blend that back in. And there we are. That is our blue. Our navy blue, hillbilly navy blue, along with our nautical blue and our hillbilly insignia white. So, I think it's going to look really good. We'll just have to wait and see how everything turns out. Well, we still got a lot of painting to do. We didn't get everything done that I would have liked to have got done, but we're running short of time, so we have to move on. But I do think that our blue came out, well, it's an interesting Corsair blue, if you ask me. Not really navy blue, but it's just, I like it. I do. I really like it. I think it looks really good. I just do. A little bit too shiny for me, but yeah, I think we're in really good shape here. It's going to look good. And it closely matches, not exactly, but it closely matches the blue on the box. So, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to chalk that one up to a success there. Yeah, but in the next video, we got a lot of other painting to take care of. We got to take care of our, let's see, our landing gears and the tires and the propeller and all that little stuff right there. And then maybe we'll get some assembly done there. We got decals and weathering. I don't know if we'll get all that done in the next video or not. So look out, keep an eye out, I should say, for part 4. That'll be the next one, and that'll be next Friday. So special thanks to all my subscribers. It's because of you guys I keep making these videos, and I hope that you enjoyed this one. And if you did, please give me a like. And if you're new to the channel and not a subscriber, I hope today I earned your subscription. So, until I see you guys next Friday, you guys stay safe.